Thank you for joining me. Your host is Dominique Rivera, the Oracle of Apollo, and you're watching Divine Encounters. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, follow, and support our channel here. Today, we're going to be doing another supernatural story time. So, you guys already know I have another wonderful guest for you all today to share an inspirational experience. Once a park ranger, now herbologist, shares a story with you on how he found spirit. And what is spirit, anyways? Well, we're going to find out in this episode, so stay tuned.
You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
Thank you for joining me. So excited to be here. Another Wednesday night, another supernatural story. How can life get any better when we know we're divinely guided and supported throughout all of time? So make sure you drop a comment in the comment section below if you're watching this on the replay seekers, #seeker. And I would love to hear from you. Make sure that you guys are liking and subscribing. And don't forget, this show is not just one where you're going to be passive. You're going to be energetically shifting your energy in the show. And I invite you all every week to have your high quality H2O, preferably not in plastic. I know, guys, you guys always see me with glass, but I am not home today. So we are in a different particular place. And I like to start off every episode to your health, wealth, and prosperity. I'm not going to show y'all the label of that bottle because they ain't sponsoring me. So you already know. Make sure if you want to get a reading, work with me, become a coachee, that you check out my website, oracleofapollo.com. I'm taking on new clients and new students at this time. Also, if you would like me to come to your venue and do a private event or group event for your people, please hit me up there. Today, make sure you guys are sharing this feed because it shares the blessing. And we're going to be bringing up my guest for this evening. So throw up some hearts, share this with your friends, and let's do the thing. Bush Ninja!
There we go. I'm in. Hi.
So nice to see your little beautiful face. So
Thank you.
Let's let people know at home how we met Mr. Ninja here in Carolina, and we bonded over.
Yeah, we were
dogs.
in North Carolina at Mandala Springs, and we have a great love for our dogs who teach us a lot about spirit, amongst other things, like all conditional love.
Yes, absolutely. Let everybody know at home, Alex, who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name's Alex Howe, and I do good. People ask me what I do, and I say capital G, good. If I can make a G through the screen there. And I do the way I do good is through teaching about practical herbalism in today's now, and traveling the world and helping to pollinate the medicine from indigenous peoples and cultures who I learned from, and also folks in the local areas who want to learn more about their own health and wellness. So that's what I do. One of the many things I do.
Oh, well, that's awesome and impressive. And I just realized I ran out of water and I'm going to go run and get more water. So if you want to go into a little bit of detail more about how you do what you do, you got the floor.
Okay, great. Yeah, I do a few different things. Some things I love. I journey around in my home. This is my beautiful van, Rolanda, in the United States when I'm here. And I go between various events where I do my favorite thing at various festivals and events and markets is called a medicine blanket. And that medicine blanket that I do is an interpretation of a traditional medicine blanket from South Africa. And I've lived and journeyed Southern Africa for over 5 years, over the last 10 years or more. And that's a big part of this story. So where did the whole name Bush Ninja came from was actually I was in South Africa, which is another part of the story. I do love storytelling, and I would never spoil a good story before it's time.
I know. We have to let the story seduce us. Don't jump ahead or jump ahead. So we're not going to jump ahead. We're gonna put that on divine timing, exactly when it needs to be. I like to start off every episode with the good news. So we're going to jump into that to start raising the vibe. And to that I say, what's good? Alrighty, we're going to be doing the good news, and we're leveling up today. We got the 7 of materials right here in the midst of us. And I'm going to tell you what the meaning of this card is. The 7 of materials. In any journey, there are pauses, places to rethink, reestablish, and redirect. Stepping onto her timeline, she awaits patiently, ready to reap the rewards that she has sown in the past. And she knows that they're almost ready. Her gut tells her, her heart tells her, so she knows. In the lucidity of the pause, she realizes that her lace has come undone. She ties it up slowly, knowing it would have tripped her up in the future had she not taken notice now. She's grateful, graceful, and mindful. And she's moving through the reverberations of yesterday's thoughts and actions while sending out tomorrow's reality with love, energy, and intention. She steps into a liminal space and puts herself squarely in the present. She knows that this plateau serves a beautiful break to breathe and take stock. Deep breath in. You've come so far. Even though she's not yet there, her timeline is moving quickly now. Even if she can't see it, it's time to make another order with the universe, to evaluate, to assess, and to keep on keeping on. Her beautiful roses are coming. And here's the poem, because there's a poem, Alex, to every card. When the muse pauses, relax. When she slows the clock, wait. When she disappears, revel in all the creation to come. When the muse redirects, assess. When she decides, trust. And when she blooms, water, bringing all of your drops of wonder for life filled with both magical momentum and healing stillness. Okay, Alice, how do you feel about this message for the collective today, the 7 of materials?
My goodness, so much of that card resonated with me about how amusing that muse really could be, and how she walks her road, and but she's mindful. And I can't quite see the face. Is she wearing a mask?
She's looking down at the roses.
Looking down at the roses. Okay, because when you said like tied it up, I wasn't sure if you were talking about a mask. But you know, rose tending is a very precise work. You know, roses have thorns, and I love the quote. It's lament not that roses have thorns, but rejoice that thorns have roses.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps. Who says that?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Unfortunately,
you have to text that to me later so I can keep it. I've been using the roses analogy all weekend. I just did an expo, and I used this analogy twice this weekend. And a few analogies of this card I've used this weekend that it's coming up today. And I also want to state the top of this card, you can't see it because you're looking at your phone, but I have it on the screen on my computer on this side. It looks like the top of your van. Like it
Ah,
blends effortlessly with the top of your van, like a continuation of beauty right
oh,
there.
cool.
Yeah, so it looks really cool on the bigger screen. You have to check
That's
it out.
great.
Honestly.
Yeah, I will. And I also have a very special connection to roses because one of the other things I do, as you know, is I'm a fire performer, and I have a unique expression where I pretty much had the idea by myself. We'll say before I say I invented it, but to burn a rose in a particular way after dipping it in fuel, and then like peeling the petals down very sensually and plucking flaming petals off the rose and tossing them into the air and eating them sometimes on fire and things like that. So
I'm just casually being sensual.
yeah, and you can caress yourself with it and you can hold it like you care about it deeply. And so I have this deep connection to roses too. And so that's like a whole performance art that has bloomed. And I actually just had the idea 2 years ago at Mandala Springs where we met. What would happen if I tried this? And it's developed into a whole fire flower flow now.
Fire, flower, flow. Say that three
Yeah.
times real fast. Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That sounds beautiful. You'll have to everybody's gonna have to go check out your Instagram and your pages later when we shout you out and check out some of that because I know I'm intrigued. So I know you guys at home are intrigued as well. Sheesh. So I like to now go into what we call mindfulness moment before we go into your story time. And it's just an assessment of where we are at in this exact moment energetically. So from 1 to 10, 1 being the least amount of energy, 10 being the most amount of energy. Put that in the comment section below now, guys and ladies, and let us know where you're at. And we're going to take a moment and take a look at ourselves. And we're going to come right back in a few seconds and let you know what we're feeling. Okay, so where are you at energetically in this exact moment from 1 to 10, Alex?
I'm at a solid 7. I feel like I was had a rush of excitement getting ready for our chat today, and that was a good part of it. The universe. I just after that I'd gotten off the phone where everything fell into place in this miraculous way that I had no idea could have even been possible, and it was all super perfect, just as these things go. And so I'd bump that up to 8, remembering that I just had that, and then I rushed to go get ready. but I'm also like, I'm solid, I'm comfortable. I've got a big event this weekend, so I've got a late night ahead of me. I'm excited about preparing for an event that I'm participating in, and it's gonna be good.
Awesome. So he's at a 7, or not at an 8 rather, and
Yeah.
it's actually pretty rough. So I'm like a 5 today. So we're gonna go ahead and have this mindfulness moment, and we're just gonna breathe in together, and we're gonna close our eyes. If this is your first time watching Divine Encounters, there's gonna be a bell. You're gonna close your eyes, and we're gonna collectively breathe for 1 minute. Alrighty, 60 seconds on the clock. We're gonna go ahead and close our eyes now, taking a breath in and just letting that go. We're gonna breathe in the energy of perseverance and just feel where that falls into your body. We're gonna breathe in the energy of the long game, our investments, and a beautiful manifestation of the future. We're gonna feel like we are expressing that to our future and to allow ourselves to take time to assess our situations, have gratitude, and be diligent. We're just going to breathe into that and let go of anything else that just trepidates this energy. And give yourself gratitude for 1 moment. Just thank yourself for being here. Come back into your body, final exhale. And we thank the angels for guiding, directing, surrounding, and protecting us today. Namaste. And when you're ready, go ahead and come back to the here and the now. And then drop in that comment section below what you're feeling now after After the calibration, I'm now clearing. I already feel it coming. Alex, where are you now? And if anything rose up for you, what was outstanding?
I feel in the same place. I'm just still kind of like, the whole moment when you asked me to think about it a second ago, it kind of hit me that I was like, hey, actually, I'm even feeling better than I thought I was. And so I was still in that. And I feel good about that. And yeah, it came up that, you know, everything happens for reasons. People like to say everything happens for a reason, but I like to say things happen for reasons, because they do. And they're all the reasons that they happen. But if you walk like your truth and along like your integral path, it falls into place. And that's how I kind of know I'm on the right path, is that it just actually becomes a little bit easier. Not saying I don't have challenges and I honor them, but, you know, just kismet, things happen like this.
Yeah. For me, I feel myself coming up a little bit. I'm at a 6. I felt myself clear just a smidge, and I do feel open channel right now, kind of coming in, clearing me. So that's really wonderful. And thank you for sharing. And the purpose of this, that we do this during the show, is to remind everybody at home that it just takes one moment. It takes 60 seconds to recalibrate, 60 seconds to choose to shift, and to recognize where you're at. And it's important to bring awareness to where we are. So, and we can do it lickety split. It doesn't have to be a whole monumental ritual. We can do that in just a few breaths. So thank you everybody for participating in that. And if you felt anything at home, definitely drop that in the comment section below. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a quick commercial, and then we're going to come back with our story time. So stay tuned. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to tonight's episode of Divine Encounters. We're jumping into a super natural story time in just a moment. Make sure you are liking and subscribing, checking us out as we're here every Sunday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And shout out to our sponsors, warriorgoddess.com and Intention Pen. And if you would like to partner up with Divine Encounters and bring your message to over 100,000 followers, check us out and email me at divineencounters@e360tv.com. All right, let's get on with the get on and bring Bush Ninja up here for his supernatural story time. Are you ready? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you taste it? I just feel deliciousness. Let's check it out. And here we're back to your supernatural story. And I know it's going to be savory.
Thank you.
So, how does your story start? Once upon a time or in the beginning?
Oh my gosh, it's a starry start. That's true. It starts with a boy who had his troubles and, didn't have direction and didn't have a star. And my family, was rough, but suburban and not comparing families, but I had my time of it. And there was a time when I was really sad, and I actually in high school was suicidally depressed. And I remember at one point, my mom actually got me a dog, and that dog and his love in part saved my life. Because he really lifted me up, and he was the first creature that ever taught me what love really was. And at the same time, my mom really supported me in going to Boy Scouts and going to nature, and nature really helped me find healing and solace. And I had this epiphany at one point that I wanted to be a park ranger. And so for the next, I was 14 years old. There stuff had happened. I remember a big shift. I remember having to figure out the meaning of life, because if I couldn't figure it out, and I'm a very cerebral person in that way, I had to figure it out, that I didn't see a point to it. And what I came to for me was that the meaning of my life was to spend as much of my life enjoying it as much as possible and happy as possible in my life. Not discounting the other emotions, but like a baby feels sad, he moves through that, and then he's back to this baseline of just joy and wonder. And while that is kind of a philosophy that means I choose myself and could be selfish, my thing about myself is that service gives me pleasure and great joy, and helping other people and making other people happy makes me really happy. And that's something I get just intrinsically from doing good. And so that led to wanting to be okay, well, how do I do good and essentially be a steward of the earth? And so park ranger was oh, you can be a park ranger. I had met a park ranger. I had this epiphany. I had met a park ranger. Maybe that's where it started, in the dry Tortugas in the southern tip of Florida, past the Keys, the very last islands in the Keys. And he said, oh, I just transferred down from the Statue of Liberty. And I was oh, you can transfer around in the parks and protect a beautiful place for as long as you want, and then go to the next place. And oversimplified, but that's kind of the way of it. And so for 10 years, that was the dream. And that dream pulled me out of this hole. And I got it. I went to school for it, was incredibly passionate, had an internship in Arizona. I went to school in Syracuse, in New York, at the College of Environmental Science and Forestry, and then went to Arizona, where happenstance, but things happen for reasons. We hosted the International Wilderness Guides Council. And this was a professional conference of people who do ecotherapy and rites of passage and ceremony of healing in nature from all over the world. I think we had 20 something countries. And I was running the kids programming at this event as an intern park ranger. And I met these South Africans who I connected with deeply. And so people ask me why South Africa, is because I had met these people and they have became my friends. And this was the first time I ever smelt white sage burning. This was the first sweat lodge experience I ever had that was a men's sweat. That was these professionals, people who sweated many, many, many times. And it was my first sweat, and I was 24, and we were in there for 4.5 hours or something. And it was from before dawn to well into the morning. And it was powerful rite of passage in my own psyche. And then the keynote speaker was Joseph Geronimo, the great-great-grandson of Chief Geronimo of the Apaches. And he came to speak about medicine. And he came to speak about alcohol and cannabis, specifically as medicine. And his words really were powerful and changed my perception of those substances, at 24. Having just come through college, had my own experiences, of course, with cannabis and alcohol in college and excess. And that really shifted my way of being. And then I got the quote-unquote real job. I got a real park ranger job in Nevada. And this was okay, 10 years, dream come true, high as a kite. And I was the park ranger for this crazy middle of nowhere place that hardly anybody wanted to move to because it was so far remote. And it's called the Black Rock Desert, High Rock Canyon Emigrant Trails National Conservation Area, and the Greater Black Rock Field Office by the Bureau of Land Management. Well, little did I know, this is also the park where Burning Man happens. And so I was the park ranger for the park, the steward of the land. It wasn't like the law enforcement. I'd walk up to people. It was so good. I was the only not law enforcement park ranger. It was like no badge, no guns, no tickets, no worries. This is how we protect the environment and then love the land and be its stewards. And so that was dream come true. I literally had gained my star. I wished upon it and I strived for it and I got it. And unfortunately, I didn't hold on to it. And, there was a lot of politics and stuff involved, and I won't go into it. And I didn't play the game at 24 in the bureaucracy of working in a government office. And, I had my own mistakes as well, but nothing was so egregious. But there were 2 park rangers and 1 source of funding, really, is what it came down to. And so they just kind of made up stuff to get rid of me. And I was a term employee, so they didn't have they didn't need real reasons and all these other things. But it broke my little heart. And that same week, now I'm in nowhere, Nevada. I've lost my dream job. And I was so passionate and so good at it. And I Eagle Scout, Park Ranger, good, do goody, good. And that week I was also evicted from my house because it was a friendly arrangement with the girl that lived there. I didn't have a lease. And she just said, I want to sell the house and I want you to get out of it. So that was I went from top of the world to rock bottom that week. And it was, if it hadn't, I had gone home to my parents and my mother's, and she'd moved away actually, and I'd gotten the rest of my stuff. I'd moved out of mom's garage in terms of stuff, and I'd gotten the dog, and I brought the dog with me to Nevada for the real job. I'm gonna be a man. And
all that potential,
and and so it all fell apart. And then if it weren't for Cisco, who I have a picture over here I can show you later. And you've seen the picture, but I'll show the group later. His love, he just, he wouldn't abandon me, so I couldn't abandon him. And that was just the first thing because I was just back in that hole. I was back in that deep, deep hole of depression. And I just the whole thing that had pulled me out of the hole was shattered and lost. And so that happened. And then I had another miraculous experience, which was an experience with a plant medicine. And you say the word plant medicine, and people automatically think powerful psychedelic plant medicine stuff like ayahuasca, grandmother medicine. It's not what I mean. My biggest efforts in these worlds is to remind people of the everyday sacred, that there is medicine that is powerful. It doesn't have to be powerful in your psyche in order to be powerful.
How do you define medicine for people who don't understand what your meaning is?
That's a good question. So what is medicine? So things can be taken as medicine. It goes back to what Joseph Geronimo had said, and what is medicine, and him telling me that alcohol was medicine really affected me. Then he said, but people abuse medicine. He said that too. And I was like, okay. Well, he's like, wow, look at alcohol. Who hasn't used this medicine as a celebration, during times of celebration? Who hasn't used it during times of grieving to help open up, who we can use it to make extractions like tinctures? That's powerful medicine, enabling medicine. And, and obviously many folks haven't used alcohol in the celebratory or grieving ways, but that is an aspect to its medicine. But if we also see what happens when people abuse it and how horribly destructive the abuse of it can be. And he said the same thing for cannabis. And he said, we can see that it has all these medicinal properties against cancer, against maybe glaucoma, against incontrovertible nausea. One of the people at the event had a stroke, and her nausea switch was broken, and it was just on. And so she was incontrovertible nausea. And the only thing, this was 13, 14 years ago. So she had to move to California to go get medical marijuana in order to legally and be able to live her life.
Okay.
And so that was a use of medicine, but he said, look how people abuse it. And that was an aha moment for me as a 24-year-old, just out of college kid that was okay, yeah, I'd been abusing cannabis and not working with it in a good way. And that's been a story, for me and my body, now I just don't buy it. I don't work with it because I have a van full of plant medicines. And so again, what is medicine? It's a very deep question. When does a plant become a medicine? In this case, if it's a plant, and it requires a human component. It requires a person to interact with it and say, I'm going to use this. And so there's an exchange, but it's a sacred exchange. And so that's why when you collect from nature, you must always offer gratitude, water, song, different. I love to ask a traditional healer. It's my favorite question to ask a traditional healer is, how do you give gratitude before taking from nature? And so then we talk about, what we consider to be the Western medicine and what is a drug. So for me, and I have my definition, a drug is an isolated, extracted, or synthesized compound that doesn't exist in this form in nature. And so, and that concentration gives it a greater potential for harm. And so a lot of time you can make tea out of most anything but the most deadly plants, and you'll be fine, unless without, very strong outlier maybes, but herbalism, plant medicine's a lot of safeness to it. People get afraid, and that's part of my work, is to teach them how to make good choices and how to learn what they need to know, but also to deal with the fear and say, hey, actually, there's a lot of other things I take that are way more hazardous or harmful, especially if they're a social drinker, for example, than worrying about if the tea is going to hurt them. But so some drugs can be used medicinally. There's definitely many, many things, but for me, essential oils are the drugs of herbalism, and I don't discount but they're isolated, concentrated, takes tons of energy to make them. Potential for harm is much greater. There's an educational component that has to go along with it. It's very, very important that because the essential oils became so popular as a fad, that the education was not always there, and people can, in my experience of now being an herbalist for over 10 years, I can see the most harm in terms of herbalism from essential oils, of all things.
Wow.
And so that just giving them the respect that they're due. And even so with cannabis, the flowers to me are medicine, but don't abuse the medicine, but it's still medicine. Whereas if you take concentrate and dabs, that's the drug form, if I were to make that distinction. But it's not saying that you can't use drugs medicinally. For me, a drug is just standardized so that you can know. You want that out of a drug. You want it to know how it works in a body and how long it's going to last. And you work with other medicines, other sacred medicines like mushrooms, you don't necessarily know how long they're going to last, because it's an organic individual being that's kind of like a plant and kind of like an animal, and neither either. So don't call it plant medicine unless you want to annoy me because I'm pedantic. Yeah, that was a tangent about that.
And you were saying that you witnessed miracles with these medicines?
So this encounter, everything fell apart, and I didn't even have any cannabis to smoke, and I was just so upset, and I had panic attacks, anxiety like I've never had in my entire life. 3 rubber bands of pressure around my chest, tight, 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 tight. And people who have anxiety know that tightness and how it's hard to breathe. And so there was this plant that I had read about in form of tea, and it's called passion flower leaves. Passiflora is the genus name. And so something told me to put that into my pipe and to smoke it. And I had never read anything about it. And I now truly believe that the plant told me to smoke it. And I listened, and it was like a pair of scissors came and cut the rubber bands off my chest instantaneously. Nothing was okay. Huh?
What plant was this?
This is passion flower. Passiflora incarnata, probably, or edulis. But there's numerous species of passion flower, and the passion fruit. You get the passion fruit out of it. And it's that beautiful, beautiful flower. It's my favorite flower. And it's the leaves of this medicine are one of my strongest allies. So people ask you silly superlative things like, what's your favorite plant? I was like, oh, it's like choosing my favorite child. But I really like passion flower, and it came to me, and it's helped a lot of people. Just telling you all this, now I can't make a recommendation or a claim or anything here in America, but I can tell you in my body that the leaves of this plant, and when I smoke it, and you don't have to smoke it, but it mixes well with smoking blends, and I teach about smoking blends. it's really great for calming me down. And an anti-anoxylytic is really the word for it. It does have a mild MAOI property, so that's important to know because it can interact with compounds. So do your research. But again, in the experiences I've made, without making claims or telling you what to do, you can drink this tea and it's not going to hurt you. And then the amount that you have is a tea. If you made a drug out of it, then you would have some kind of concentrated pill that could hurt you. But this is a tea, and it can really help for sleepy time. It's in a lot of sleepy time teas. So it's helped a lot of people with like mind chatter. And again, it's just that existential anxiety. Like, why am I so anxious all the time? And you know why? It's because we were never meant to be in the little boxes made of ticky-tacky all down the row, you know, not talking to each other, not sitting in community, not around fire, not in the air and the sun and the earth, and, you know, beneath our feet. And so we're just like a mouse in a cage, in a lot of hamsters running on the wheel. And so when that happened, that severance, so I learned about rites of passage on this journey, because look, I was just brought to the community that holds that container. And there's a thing about a classic rite of passage, and it starts with severance. In a lot of communities and traditionals, you'll literally be abducted from your home. And like, you knew it was coming, it was ritualistic kind of thing. You didn't necessarily know when, but they would come and they would take you, and they would pull you away from your mother. And that was a severance. And then there's this threshold. And this is true for all things, all rites of passage that you can use for your own stories. You know, some horrible tragedy or some big event shifts your life. And it's hard to have gratitude for the worst things that happen to you in your life. But if you're able to find it, if you're able to step through the threshold and like go and remake it, whatever you want. You know, I like to say I'm a mosaic of a man because I was shattered, but I got to put it back together in this beautiful self that lives in my beautiful home, completely, not standard to the culture, but I'm very happy and free. And then there's the reconciliation after you walk through the threshold, you know. So then, for example, the Zulu rite of passage, you know, they would be taken away from the village, and they'd have to go and journey through the environment and survive, and then come back and be received back. And then they would be essentially a man. And learning about that was when in America, because we have so little, like the men's work and the toxic wounding of our masculine energies in this world. And you know how much work us light brothers are trying to do to wake up and to rise our other brothers up. But like, we don't have a rite of passage in modern America that makes you, quote unquote, you know, initiates you. And so we have this like age of, you know, a childlike adults who never were initiated, perhaps is why we have that, perhaps.
Wow. And it's true. But like in Latin culture, we have a rite of passage for the female. The quinceañera at 15, she's celebrated as becoming a woman. But we don't have that for men either.
Right. And even still, and I remember the teacher that was sharing me with this, women have at least a physical rite of passage that turns them into women, like adult women. You know, they gain their moon. And that is, whether it's held in a good way in a ritual, a man doesn't have a biophysical thing. So we ask, how do you become a man? Oh, maybe you went and graduated to college, or maybe you went into the military. We have like the accomplishments that you did, or you went to prison, you know, that'll make you a man, or you went and did some kind of sport thing. And we don't have good community held examples of that. And so men's work since that day has been part of my work as well. But here I was, you know, lost at sea without a star. And I just hit up these friends. I was like, well, I got to get out of here. I can't go back. I was heartbroken to touch it. And it was just, so I ran away. You know, what did I do? People ask, oh, you know, I ran away. You know, I did. It was like easier to just go away and try again and figure, and just like, I was able to determine that I had, out of necessity, skills and crafts and services to offer in order to travel without money. And so that's a big part of like if I tell people, and I don't know, call it an inspirational talk or whatever, but it would talk about how I have been able to do this for a decade now or more. It's because I am proactive. I don't like just coast on savings, but I'm intelligent about how I get by with them. You know, I'll get something somewhere that's valuable somewhere else, and I carry it over there. That's, you know, I'm a trader, almost modern day. But part of my work is the medicine. That's what I carry. I'm a vessel for medicine, because there's certain things that I think part of the bigger picture that after I learned about spirit, because we'll get to the mountain. You know, I didn't know why I went. When I went because I was invited, perhaps. And, you know, so saying yes to life and taking the invitations, even if they're scary, like, it again came back to not living regrets in my life. It's just like, you know, on your deathbed, if you're so lucky to be able to think about your life, you want to say, yeah, I like did the things that I wanted to do, and I didn't say no because of fear or discomfort, because that's always going to be there.
Wow. And that's true. Fear and discomfort will always be there. So, is this your mountain of your story?
Yeah. So I went to South Africa. It took some time. We did the paperwork, and I said to my friends, instead of a 3-month tourist visa, I applying for the 3-year volunteer visa. And so I was able to get it, and ended up 11 months to the day, from the day I was fired to the day I set foot in South Africa, which was September 11th, 2011. And then I went to visit my friend who I had met at the gathering in Arizona. Her name is Liana Swanepoel. They call her Mama Rapella, which means mother of prayer. And she lived on a mountain called Maklapeng. Maklapeng means place of stones. And this is a holy mountain within the Magaliesberg mountain chain, which is the oldest mountains on the planet. And it literally is like 45 minutes from the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. So the whole area is the Cradle of Humankind. And so I didn't really know it, but I was called back to source to find, you know, essentially, I realize now that I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone east or south and learned about the medicines there, but I don't have blood lineage that walked that earth. So me as a white man, frankly, you know, I almost like didn't want to colonize another person's medicine tradition. But here, at least in this land, in those mountains, not only did I have ancestry, but we all have blood lineage that came from those mountains and came from that area and can be tied directly back to that land. And so now I've, of course, learned that I want to learn about all of the traditions, and I didn't plan that, but I do think that it was a return to source kind of thing.
Wow. So you basically, it was a homecoming.
It was. And on my birthday, which was just the other day, 2011, on 11/11/11, I sat in a labyrinth, a stone labyrinth on top of the mountain, and I, you know, wore my medicine regalia, and had just acquired much of it, and had been working with Liana, who had taught me much as an interesting fusion. Her teacher was a Lakota man named Tim, and also traditional South African medicine as a fusion. So I learned more about traditional Lakota and Native American tradition from a white South African woman in South Africa than I ever knew before. But the lineage is strong and it's pure. And I found, on that night, I found prayer in my life in a real way. And I made my first prayer experience, and was able to actually touch that in my heart and in my mind and in my spirit. And from there, you know, there's more story.
How do you feel like this has changed you?
Well, I mean, the whole thing's been an incredible transformation. You should have seen me with a crew cut and a park ranger uniform. But now I know I have faith of a form. I don't prescribe to dogma and scripture per se. And I have my relationship with the universe, and it's somewhat conversational. I am that I am. And it comes from also, it's like we are all the same connected stuff. and even the sacred words of many of the teachings all say the same thing. And in fact, Liana gave me this beautiful piece that's the center of my altar. Let's see if I can get it to you. And it's this. And it says, Namaste, in lakek, assalamu alaikum, aho, bato kebato kabota, matakoyasin. I am because you are.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to end this story. So much for being here, Alex. We're going to jump into the midweek collective energy check-in. So don't you go anywhere, and you guys at home don't go anywhere. We're going to check out the forecast for the midweek. And but right before we do that, we're going to go ahead and let Alex plug himself. So shout yourself out, my friend. Let you know where they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you or learn more with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the social things.
Alex, and don't forget to mention your retreat, okay? I don't want you to forget that.
That's right. I actually was just recently offered a retreat down in Peru. I'm grateful you remembered. And it's going to be in January. I don't have the dates, but I off the top of my head because I forget. But it'll be available. So you can contact me on any of the following methods if you're interested in learning about a practical herbalism experience in a beautiful tropical jungle with waterfalls and excellent generative ecotourism vibes and permaculture vibes. But I'm the Bush Ninja, the _ Bush Ninja. At bushninja.com is my website. That's where you can just go to order things like the salves and bee propolis that I make. I'm passionate about bees. I'm the Bush Ninja on Instagram, and that's a great way to contact me too and follow. I make beautiful creative content about nature and my van life experiences and other events. And I've got Bush Ninja Botanicals. If you type that into Facebook, I will pop up, and that's my business page that tells all about my Bush Ninjas type stuff. And also you can just Alex Bush Ninja, Alex Howe, Bush Ninja, like you saw my name at the beginning. That will bring you to me on Facebook, and you can follow me on Facebook. And that's where I post my longer form stuff because it's not so limited. So when I tell deep story about journeys in Africa or things like that and big albums of experiences, that's a good way to do it. Oh, and I have a YouTube channel too, which I forgot to tell you about because I haven't been working on it as much, but it's the Bush Ninja Chronicles on YouTube. Ooh. Yeah, Bush Ninja Chronicles on YouTube. And so if you just type Bush Ninja into things, I'll mostly pop up out of a bush somewhere. Look for the blonde curly hair. You can also see the fire roses and fire sunflowers and fire protea flowers all on the Instagrams. And thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. Oh, right. Alex at bushninja.com. I'm Alex at bushninja.com if you want to email me.
Thank you so much. We're going to pop you in the green room. And you guys already know if you want to holler at him, you got all the details. All right, let's jump into that midweek collective energy check-in and what's happening for the week. All right, so we have a couple cards here really quick. We're starting off with the 8 of Earth. Skilled work is rewarded. Learning all there is to know about a topic. Particular card going back to school. So for many of us, we're needing to learn more. We're sitting here allowing ourselves to become artisans of our craft. And don't worry, like there was a pause in action earlier with our initial card. This card is basically saying that skilled work is going to be rewarded. Your lighthouse guides you home to the stars. And if you were paying attention to Alex's story, basically this whole story was about stars. So I'm not surprised that staying in your authentic self and coming from that empowered heart space is really going to allow you to guide yourself to your north, to your home, to where you're meant to be, where you're meant to walk, and who you're meant to become. Higher education. We have a couple cards here today talking about needing to study more, needing to learn more, and for practical application. And for some of you who are into plants, maybe this just might be a call for you to go work with Bush Ninja. But check out this higher education card. I'm really digging this a lot. There's so much to know. And if you need a mentor, if we have so many resources available for us. We have university YouTube, Dr. Google and Bush Ninja. So it's kind of like there's so many options here, never ending options. 8 of Pentacles. Here we are with the same exact card that we started with in the beginning of this reading about becoming an artisan and focusing on your craft. Focusing, he is there, making sure every point on those pentacles are exact and perfect. that every aspect of this brass is shiny, that everything about this circle is perfect, okay? So this is about going and crossing your T's and dotting your I's and making sure you have an exact, perfect masterpiece. Well, perfect to you and your life anyways. This is the 9 of Wands, having been through a difficult situation and having come out the other side better for it. You are still standing. And maybe an aspect of your still standing is because you are meant to deliver this artisan quality craft, whatever it may be. You may not even know what it is you're going to be creating just yet because you have more to learn. But however, maybe you had to go through those difficult times so that you could become a beautiful collage of stained glass put back together in mural form and bring your message of purpose back to the world. Because everything that we do within purpose is for purpose and becomes purposeful in our lives. Purposeful. We are full of purpose. All right, let's bring, and I think this is a great message for the week. So let's see what Bush Ninja has to say about it. Alex, what do you think about this reading?
How perfect. I mean, it just felt like that was for me. Like, thank you. It's about my craft. It's about perfecting my craft. It's about standing up and the teaching and the education component. So that's for both of us. That's for all of us, all you viewers. Like, it would be my honor to help open the door for you to making your own experiences with plant medicines in your life, the everyday sacred, the herbalism. And then the thing about the stars is, you know what I found out after I'd lost the 1 star is that now I've got all these other stars, all these other things, fire dancing and performing and herbalism. And I was like, oh, which one do I pursue? It's actually a constellation. That's the key to it all. It's like you look up into the night sky that is your life, and you have all these opportunities and all these blessings, and you can pursue them all in a way, but you have to do something. You have to be decisive. So you make your constellation of life that ties it all together. And that's like a recent epiphany I had, that I was like, okay, I had the 1 star, and then I realized that it's actually all the stars.
You have all the stars. Well, Alex, it's been a blessing to have you. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to wrap up.
Thank you, Oracle.
My final thoughts about Alex's story. So what did I learn? Let me reflect on that for a second con mucho amor. Do you or someone you know experience something supernatural that has left a positive impact on yourself or the lives of others? Want to share your story on our show? Please email Divine Encounters at e360tv.com, and together, let's create divine experiences. And now, the Oracle's final thoughts con mucho amor. So with this story that beautiful Alex just shared with us, thank you so much. If we are in a space where we are content with life and we feel like we've achieved our star and we have everything we need, and suddenly everything falls away, we may not just realize that we're not being broken, but maybe we're breaking out of the shell that we were. Maybe we're breaking through the illusions that we've had. And maybe the whole purpose of that breakthrough was to become something we never thought we could by doing things we never tried before. May you all go forward and create your own divine experiences, but above all else, may you go in love, light, and wisdom, to know thyself, love thyself, and remember the divine always has your back. I'll see you Sunday night with your horoscopes. Ciao. Do you or someone you know?
Everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels so much, just hold me. Just hold me.